And today, it is a privilege to invite David, from David's perspective, right, on this show. So David, can you just introduce yourself to the audience?
Hi everyone, my name is Devi. I'm currently a PhD student in quantitative marketing at Harvard Business School. And before coming back to the academia, I work as a data team lead in a startup in Taiwan. And I also work as a consultant for MasterCard Data and Services. So very nice to meet all of you guys.
So, David, I just want to, ask you, there's, companies, right, in the last 2 to 3 years, they have invested a lot of money in the area of data science. Where do you think we are right now, right? A lot of, in terms of data science investment, right, especially for these big companies.
Yeah, so most of my experience is in Taiwan, so I guess this is only applied for companies in Taiwan. But I think most of the companies have invested a lot of money in building data infrastructure. So they have a very mature IT team. They collect all kinds of data they can get. For example, for larger banks in Taiwan, they usually have an IT team with more than 200 data engineers there to help collecting data from their users or like from different kinds of business units. So I guess in the past 2 to 3 years, they try really, really hard to push the data collection side. But right now, they kind of like struggling because usually they don't have a very clear roadmap on how to apply these kinds of data. And usually they think, oh, data is actually the more the better. So kind of like they don't think ahead, like what kinds of application or like scenario I should prioritize to use data and to inform their decisions. Okay,
so I do agree with your viewpoint. I think in the last 2 to 3 years, we do see that there is an increase, right, investment in infrastructure. David, so why do you think, right, like for these large organizations, there's still a distance, right, away from, leveraging or really mining for insights in the database that they have? What is the roadblocks? Right?
Yeah, this is actually a very interesting question because I think there are several components. But I believe the most important one is that there is a gap between business team and data team. Like for example, in Taiwan, we have tons of great technical talents that are very good at programming. They are very good at building machine learning models. But the problem here is that usually they don't understand the business questions and the business language. So sometimes when business team talk to them, they kind of like go in very deep into the algorithm part, but they don't try to think from a high-level perspective, what's the impact of this algorithm and what's the roadmap for our future analytics platform. Yeah. And another thing is that I think business teams do need training because there are lots of hype about data science and artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc. So sometimes, for example, when I work with a previous client, they just say, oh, we actually want to build a AI-driven CRM system. So when I try to ask, what's your goal for this system and why do you think AI is especially help? What's the current problems for your CRM system? They just feel like, oh, I mean, there are lots of industry leaders doing this, so we also want to have one. So I guess this lack of understanding about what machine learning and artificial intelligence can actually add value to them, this is another very, I think, important issue that I want to address here.
So yeah, I think there is a very I would say expectation mismatch, right, between a data scientist and also an executive, right, someone from. So what advice can you give to the audience here so that they can improve on their communication?
Yeah, I don't feel like there was a lack of talent in terms of mid-level data scientists, but sometimes we are a little bit confused, like what does it mean for a mid-level data scientist or a senior data scientist? I think one of the most important things is about communication skills. So because if you try to build a lot of cool algorithms, but you don't actually push it to the field, it actually adds no value to the business. It does, to be honest, does not justify your salary, right? So I think communication skills is actually super, super important. You need to understand how to communicate with different partners. For example, usually we are very familiar with communication with the, for example, engineering team or data engineers team. But if you are in a client-facing role, that is, you need to talk to, for example, sales director, marketing manager. How do you use their language to make them understand the impact of your work? And I think understanding more about domain knowledge is also very important because it's very easy to build a machine learning model right now comparing to 10 years ago. We have lots of great software, package, etc.
Yeah.
But how do you really think about their business question and identify the right tool to help them? I think this is also very important. So this is my overall observation. And do you have any kinds of thoughts on if you want to recruit a data scientist, what are the important qualifications?
So when I look out for data scientists, when I'm hiring for a commercial unit within an organization, the first thing that comes to my mind is actually the business acumen, right? Like at the end of the day, you can't be talking about all your technical jargons where the businesses can't really differentiate, or can't really understand, what insights are you trying to present, because every single business decision, it is like millions of dollars.
Yeah.
So I think when your business unit stakeholders or your business stakeholders ask you a lot of questions, I think there is it is for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Because it is really millions of dollars. I think in Walmart, right? You can run what we call market basket analysis to see what are the different purchases within the basket. And if you are a data scientist, right, and you run the analysis, very naturally you will know that maybe bread and butter is two commonly purchased items within the basket. Run to the CEO and say that I got it, I found my insights, right, that when people buy bread, they usually buy butter, and bam, CEO, I recommend that you give a promotion to these two items right now, bundle them together and sell it. CEO will probably mention that thank you so much for your time. I don't need to run the analysis, and I also know that these two goes hand in hand together. Right? Then if you were to run things like Mr. CEO, after going back, when I run through the analysis again, I find that beer and diaper, right, goes hand in hand. And this is the time where it's very interesting, because number one, the insights is something that the business would never have thought of. And when you are communicating such insights to them, when they ask you, oh, very interesting, can you tell me more? You can't be saying that, oh, I run a priori algorithm and these two comes out to be the best combination. No, I don't think the CEO meant that, right?
And I think one thing very important is that usually if you want to communicate with very high stakeholders, like for example the CEO or the directors, etc., then you need to try to beef up your story. You need to find something that people should not know if you don't have these kinds of analysis. I think that's the value for data sciences, and it's very easy for you to get buy-in from other business stakeholders. And another thing I think is usually when you provide some counterintuitive insights, people will challenge you.
Yes.
So when people are challenging you, you cannot say, oh, this is the mysterious black box that actually make it happen. You need to first explain how you get the insights in a very high level perspective. And second, you need to try to generate some business hypotheses to justify your answer. So in graduate school or in GRE tests, etc., we usually need to have a great argument about to support your suggestion. So you also need to find these kinds of supports. So I think it's actually very important for data scientists to understand how to generate these great arguments. And it actually requires you to understand the business situation, the problems, and the overall customer behaviors, etc. So I guess for more young talents, that for example, if you are still in the school, if you major in computer science or statistics, I think it's a great major. And I would definitely encourage people to read other areas. I personally love to read Harvard Business Review or McKinsey Insights, etc. when I was a student, because I could understand how the business think about data science and what are the most hot topics they are talking about.
That's a very good advice, David. I hope that the above discussion would help you, to shed some. It will help you, right, to understand a little bit more, right, on how can you convince, right, your business stakeholders. As we mentioned earlier on, right now a lot of companies, they are investing a lot in infrastructure. I think the critical step now is we need people like you, right? To bring, to mine for insights in the data and then to help the business, right? So that they can further enhance whether their operations or they can further enhance, their sales. So thank you so much for your time, and we hope to see you the next time.
Thank you. See you soon.